Planet Dolan.
Humans are supposed to be the smartest animals on the planet, with our use of language, tools, and technology. But does that really make people the most intelligent? Are there any creatures that could make a fool of us? Here are the times that animals outsmarted humans. I'm Melissa, and today I'll be your narrator. Number 15. Kelly the Dolphin. The Institute for Marine Mammal Studies in Mississippi had a clever way of keeping its dolphin enclosure clean. Any dolphin that brought a piece of floating trash to a trainer would get a fish as a reward. One clever female named Kelly realized that the size of litter was irrelevant, so she kept large pieces of paper at the bottom of the pool and tore off strips to get herself as much fish as possible. The dolphin found a way to train the humans. Number 14. Lock-breaking monkeys. In 2012, staff at a Brazilian zoo were on the hunt for 8 escaped capuchin monkeys. The monkeys had escaped by using stones as hammers to break open the locks on their cages. Capuchin monkeys have also been observed using tools in the wild to break open food like nuts. 3 of the monkeys were found within a few hours, and a 4th was eventually picked up at a local restaurant, but 4 capuchins remain free to this very day. Number 13. Bulletproof elk. A researcher in Canada noticed that once female elk reach a certain age, they almost never fall victim to human hunters. To find out why, he studied the behavior of the elk and noticed that they acted differently during hunting seasons. When it was open season for rifle hunters, the elk would stand still more and avoid roads. But during bow hunting season, the elk would stick to rugged, difficult terrains, showing that the deer learned to recognize hunter types. Number 12. Russian tank dogs. During World War II, the Russian army attempted to train dogs to destroy German tanks. The canines were fitted with explosives, which had timer contact detonators, and were trained to run underneath the tanks. However, many of the Russian dogs had learned to find tanks by the smell of diesel, which was used by the Russian tanks, whereas the Germans used gasoline. So the Soviets had effectively created an army of dogs that blew up their own tanks. Number 11. Shrek the sheep. In 1998, a 4-year-old sheep named Shrek wandered off from his herd and hid in a cave. He managed to stay there, avoiding recapture for 6 years, until eventually the farmer found him. Over this time, Shrek had grown nearly 30 kilos of wool on his back, which made him look like a giant walking marshmallow. The shearing of Shrek was broadcast on national TV in New Zealand, which must have been an exciting view. Number 10. Escaping octopus. The octopus is considered to be the most intelligent invertebrate in all the animal kingdom, and Inky, an octopus at the New Zealand National Aquarium, is no exception. When a member of staff left his lid slightly open, Inky slid out of his tank and dragged himself across the floor of the center towards a drain pipe that led 50 meters to the sea. Other octopi have even been known to climb onto boats to steal fish. Number 9. Chimpanzee memory. A study in 2007 tested the ability of chimpanzees to memorize the order of numbers flashed on a screen. Numbers between 1 and 10 would appear very quickly on a touchscreen, and the chimps would have to touch where the numbers were in the correct order. Amazingly, not only did they complete the task, but the apes actually outperformed the humans who took the same test, suggesting that they possess mental abilities which we've lost. Number 8. Fu Manchu was a young male orangutan at Omaha Zoo, whom the zookeepers kept finding in other animals' enclosures. The head keeper assumed that the cage was being left unlocked, but when he lay in wait to watch, he saw Fu climb down a ventilation shaft, inch open a locked furnace door, and somehow unlock it from the inside. The next day, the keeper found a piece of wire in the orangutan's mouth, which he'd been using to open the lock. Number 7. Crows of Kyushu. On the southern Japanese island of Kyushu, an electric company is engaged with a battle for supremacy over the region's power lines. The large-beaked jungle crow has a habit of building its nests on power lines, causing blackouts in some areas, and also stealing pieces of wire and cable for use in its nests. The company set up a crow patrol to destroy the nests, but the birds responded by building decoy nests, doubling the company's workload. Number 6. Indian elephants. Farmers in parts of Asia have had to come up with some creative solutions to prevent herds of wild elephants from stealing their crops. One method is to erect electric fences around the land, which shocks the elephants but rarely causes serious harm. However, a group of elephants in Indonesia managed to escape their reserve and take down the electric fences using tree trunks ripped from the ground, so they could chow down on a field of peanuts. Number 5. African elephants. Meanwhile, in Africa, illegal hunting is threatening the population of elephants in countries like Kenya, as the trade in ivory tusks pushes greedy poachers to kill. but tracking data shows that the elephants are learning which places and people to trust. Despite there being no markings, the elephants have figured out which zones of the national park are protected, and can also tell the difference between a team of armed park rangers and a group of poachers. Number 4. Ai Hin the panda. Pandas are notorious for their low birth rate, so when females at the Chengdu Breeding Research Center in China show signs of pregnancy, the staff will quickly move the panda to a single room with air conditioning, round-the-clock care, and limitless food. One clever female named Ai Hin figured this out and started faking the symptoms of being pregnant just to get an upgraded suite and room service. Number 3. The Tamworth 2. In 1998, 2 pigs were being unloaded from a truck to be slaughtered at the abattoir, but the 2 siblings managed to squeeze through a fence, swim across a river, and disappear, prompting all of England and the rest of the world to suddenly become excited by the legend of the Tamworth 2, who were named Butch and Sundance. When the precocious piggies were eventually found, their lives were spared, and they were even made the subject of a movie. Number 2. Fox, kangaroo, and boar. In an amazing display of interspecies cooperation, 3 kangaroos escaped from a zoo in Frankfurt by first crawling out of their enclosure using a hole dug by a fox, and then getting under the exterior fence by using a hole dug by a wild boar. 2 of the kangaroos were recaptured, but the other disappeared into the wild. It just shows what you can achieve with a little teamwork. Number 1. Mud Creek Grizzly. For years, scientists at the Glacier National Park in Montana have been studying the behavior of bears, often by setting up research points that either trap or photograph the bears, with elaborate bait systems. One bear, known as the Mud Creek Grizzly, had had enough of these damn scientists, so he invaded the research points, smashed up the cameras and film, disabled the traps using sticks and rocks, and then walked off with the bait. Scientists only recovered a few photos of the furious bear. This video was made possible by our fans over on Patreon. Thanks for your support, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.